think what you'll hear in the general public is type 2 diabetes is caused because people are just overweight and lazy, they're not exercising enough, and they eat too much sugar, right? And I think that myth needs to go, because when you actually get to know diabetes research and you see people in the real world, you'll see that actually people can develop type 2 diabetes of any body weight. You don't have to be outwardly appearing overweight or obese to get type 2. There are people of a normal BMI that can get type 2. There's like ethnic and genetic reasons why that happens.
Yep.
There is where those people store body fat. So they don't wear it subcutaneously that you can see on their body, but their fatness is stored in the organs and around the organs viscerally. So it's interfering with the pancreas, the liver, the organs that influence glucose kinetics within the body, right? So you can't see that. You can't look at someone and go, yeah, you're definitely type 2, you're definitely type 1, or you're definitely not type 2. We don't know, right? Now, with that said, if you are overweight or obese, your risk of developing type 2 is obviously way more increased because you are depositing fat in the wrong areas of your body. So another misconception is people think that if you have a lot of fat on the outside of your body subcutaneously, that you're at risk of type 2. But it's actually the visceral organ fat that is more detrimental to somebody's health. So even just looking at someone, you cannot tell how much visceral fat they have. So you might see two people. One person is clearly overweight by how much body fat they're storing subcutaneously. But if they don't have a genetic predisposition to store that fat in and around the organs of their body, they might have completely normal blood glucose management and insulin management.
Are they still more likely, though, than the healthy weighted human to store visceral? Okay.
Yes, because as you increase subcutaneous fat, everyone's got a different sort of set point at which that fat deposit starts to go into organs. And that's why it's different between everyone. So if you have a very low set point where you start depositing visceral fat at a low subcutaneous level, then you might develop type 2 diabetes looking like a normal healthy body weight, right? So it really also depends on people's set points and body fat set points, which is very hard to know. But as you mentioned, the more total fat you're storing, the closer you're getting to that set point where it tips over into, okay, it's going to be stored a lot in the visceral tissues, and then it changes the way your body reacts to carbohydrates. It makes you insulin resistant. So the insulin that's meant to be this key to unlock your muscles and your liver cells, and it stops working. It's jammed up. It's locked.
Prickly conversation and topic here, but at the moment, I think it's changing a little bit in the last couple of months, but over the course of at least the last 5 years, we've seen a real body positivity movement online. I won't ever put words into anyone's mouth, but I personally don't care how people want to live their life. But I do care about the conversation of pretending that certain things are healthy when they're most certainly going to come into challenges for people who don't look after themselves physically. People like you and I get a first-hand view of that because of the worlds that we've existed in with health conditions, where you can see pretty quickly that if you don't look after yourself, there is a web of things that are connected that cause you more problems than maybe you care to realise in the moment. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. It depends if I want to get myself cancelled or not. Okay. Body positivity movement. I think there's a couple things that we need to sort of talk about here. One is that everyone has a right to eat and move in a way that feels right for them, and they can do whatever they want.
Of course.
And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if somebody feels and looks beautiful at the size and shape that they are, no questions asked. Body positivity versus physiological health are two separate conversations. You can have somebody who is very overweight, who still considers themselves beautiful and has a very positive attitude towards how they look, but they can also have chronic diseases and be worsening or increasing their risk of developing cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic conditions, the list goes on. So I just think it's okay to have that conversation, but we just need to be honest about the physiology behind the body that appears beautiful to some people or doesn't. Like, there is no denying, and I know I just said you can be overweight and not have type 2, but you can also significantly increase your risk of developing type 2 if you just are in a calorie surplus all the time, gaining weight and getting closer and closer to those thresholds of diabetes. So it starts off like it's a spectrum. So you might start with insulin resistance or impaired glucose tolerance or impaired fasting glucose. So there's these little markers that sort of tell you, okay, you're on your way to potentially developing full-blown type 2 diabetes. And the early sign is these things. So when you wake up in the morning, is your blood glucose starting to just go a little bit higher and higher? Is your ability to tolerate a carbohydrate-containing meal getting a little bit worse? You may have done a glucose tolerance test, and you see when you drink this glucose beverage a normal response. So yeah, your blood glucose is going to go up, but if your insulin is working and you're sensitive to insulin, it's going to come back down pretty quickly. People who have this impaired glucose tolerance will see the spike go up, and then it'll take a really long time to come down. So it's an abnormal response. So the spike is not the problem. It's how quickly you return back to normal, right? So this spectrum happens, and you see these little signs, and then it might go from, your blood glucose is elevated in the morning, you're not tolerating your meals as well. Then you start to develop like real insulin resistance to the point where almost all day long you're sitting at above the normal range, and your HbA1c is now elevated. These are signs that you are storing fat in places in your body that it's just not meant to be there. It's causing physiological dysfunction. And if you have, an idea about yourself that it doesn't matter what size you are, that you can be healthy at any size, I think we need to be careful with how we word that.